Well, good morning, everybody. It's about time we're gonna combine some traditional, old-fashioned industry with a brand new industry. Um, I'm here today as the Chief Commercial Officer of a company called SkyCell, part of a group of companies called Smart Containers, and within that group we also have a separate division application called Food Guardians. My name is Marrie Groeneveld. I'm Dutch, so for those who want to have any questions in Dutch, you can still go ahead. So today I want to talk a bit about how the traditional industry called logistics, how that's gonna benefit from blockchain, and especially how the blockchain could possibly disrupt, and that is our vision as a company, could disrupt the way the logistics industry is functioning and even can be improved. Right. So just a quick step back into what logistics is, just to give you an idea. There's a picture here, but anyway, so the total spend around the globe is more than 2 trillion. That is going on in logistics, and because as you know, everything that we buy, any product that you see, actually has been moved from somewhere to somewhere. So that is everything we have as products has been going through a certain supply chain. Good. So more specific, and that is when it comes to the SkyCell application, which is positioned in a cold chain, in the cold chain industry. The total spend on a global basis is about 250 billion. We were talking about big numbers here, and more specific on the pharma, which is temperature controlled and temperature sensitive. The total spend is around 12 billion. Now, the funny thing is that, as I said, it's a very traditional industry. So roughly for each and every shipment that we see in the supply chain around the globe, on an annual basis, on an average basis, we need about 200 documents. I mean, sometimes the amount of money that is spent on just handling the admin and making sure that the admin is done properly is taking more time and money than sometimes the transportation, the physical transportation of the products. So don't worry. Today it's a different world. Things have been changing. I mean, we moved from the normal writing documents, and we moved into the faxes, we moved into the email, and we moved into the email flooding. As I said, 200 documents usually are needed for or emails to just to handle one shipment from A to B, or from the origin to the destination, which is highly inefficient. But it is the way the industry has been organized, and it still functions. Now, since the 70s, the cost of logistics actually has gone down. It is very, very cheap nowadays to have products delivered. That's also why if you order something online, whether it's with Amazon or Bol.com or whatever, you can actually have it delivered free of charge. But that is because of the economies of scale that the logistics industry has seen, and actually it on a one-to-one basis, the delivery of a shipment has actually currently been cheaper than it has ever been before. But at the same time, the profitability of the logistics companies in general is very slim. If you compare it with the total revenue that they produce, and then I'm talking about the asset-owning companies, the carriers, so to say, they make, if you look at their total numbers, total revenues, the bottom line revenue, the bottom line profit that they make is very, very, very slim. And the only way for that industry to cope with that, has been combining assets and actually growing their total capacity. So that's why we have seen over the last 30 years companies buying other companies just to make sure that their cost level has been going down. And of course, that is something that cannot go on. That has to stop somewhere. So it's about centralization. So the entire industry has been organized by buying other companies, creating capacity, and centralizing more and more of the capacity and more of the activities. But in the end, it doesn't seem to work very well, because that is our vision as smart containers, and where I represent the SkyCell application for. I think it is time for a disruptive action there. Although it's logistics has been a traditional industry, but it's the only way to get out of the spiral of just grow the business and get the company, make the company bigger, because that's the only way that we know as logistics industry to reduce our cost. It is about time to change that and to change it from the outside. So it is not the insiders in the logistics industry, and it will not be the insiders in the industry that will change it, for the simple reason that there is no benefit for the logistics industry currently to disrupt their own business model. So they will not change it. So it will be the outsiders will do it, and will have to do it. We have seen it in the car industry. Who changed this? Who changed the way we think about driving, spending energy, building cars? It was not Mercedes, it was not by BMW, it was not Audi, it was Tesla. It was not the traditional industry. They could have done it, but there was no interest. Same thing with the way we look at music. Who changed the industry around music? It was iTunes, it was Apple. It was not the traditional music industry. Hope it works. Oh, just not. Same thing on Amazon is a good example where the way we used to buy books and also other goods and distribute them. Amazon came from the outside and changed that industry. And I think smart containers is the right application, the right company to do the same thing for the logistics industry. Because what we're going to do is it's not so much about changing the hardware. I mean, we all know about what an airplane is. We know what an ocean liner is. But it's about combining the two, so combining the hardware and the software to disrupt the way the logistics industry has been organized in order to make it more efficient. So just a quick step on what SkyCell or what smart containers is. These are the two co-founders, Richard Edel, who is I always call it the economic brain behind the company, and Nico Ross, who is the technical brain behind the company. They started the company SkyCell and smart containers about 5 years ago. What they did was they wanted to produce a methodology to ship, let's say, expensive, scarce, high value, temperature sensitive products to the patients from the manufacturer directly, without the loss of products due to temperature excursions. So that's exactly what they have been doing. So they built the technology that Nico actually learned from his construction activities and businesses in the Middle East. And he built, so they spent about 50 man-years to develop the technology, which resulted ultimately in about 100 patents on the pharma packaging, the thermo pharma packaging. That again resulted in a packaging methodology that has a 75 times higher safety level than the current industry standard, and that's amazing. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean? 75 times more safe. I mean, for instance, how can you make an airplane 75 times more safe? Well, the industry standard for pharmaceutical products and the temperature excursions that are accepted in that industry, meaning the acceptance of a certain percentage of products getting lost due to temperature excursions, is currently at a staggering 8.5%, which means that 8.5% of all products that are shipped, all pharmaceutical products that are shipped in a temperature controlled sense, actually get lost and had to be written off. I mean, if you think about the amount of money that is lost in this way, but also the availability of the product, it's just staggering. Now, the methodology, the innovation, and the technology that SkyCell have developed, this packaging guarantees a 75 times safer delivery of the products, which means instead of the 8.5%, the overall, over the duration of the company, the loss of products has been 0.1% instead of the 8.5%. So that's why we say it is 75% more safer. So it's about saving products. At the same time, it's also about let's say the Internet of Things and how we collect our data around the container, because it's not so much about the container itself. It's also about how we collect the data around it. So that is also why, with this combination of technology, we currently have built up the company SkyCell as the 4th largest container owner in the industry. So it's not a white paper. It's an existing business. It's producing revenue. It's producing, and it's growing fast. So when we talk about smart containers, within smart containers we have two applications. So it's the SkyCell one, which is an existing business. It's mature. It is based in Zurich, headquartered in Zurich. Products are made in Zurich. The second application is Food Guardians, which is, so where on the one hand SkyCell is based on pharma containers and pharma protection. Food Guardians, it's much more about protecting food. So that is a different, so it's also a different magnitude. Right. So it's currently the 4th largest container provider in just 5 years in a very competitive market. What we bring to the market with these products is 20% lower overall cost, or landed cost of their containers, and it's recognized by 12 out of the 20 leading pharmaceutical companies. It is recognized as the safest product in the market. And what also helps us, of course, is that we have a high-level executive board from the industry, from the different industries, on our board. So Food Guardians, so the second application for smart containers, it's about, well, it's more about, in fact it's about delivering or getting products fresher and tastier to the client, to the consumer, because still, I mean, I'm not sure if those who buy products at well-known supermarkets in the Netherlands or wherever, it still happens that you buy fresh products, and if you look at it and you put it in the fridge, and after one day you find out that half of it actually can be thrown away. Well, there's something wrong in that supply chain for sure. Food Guardians is going to attack that issue, not on a local scale alone, but it's going to be offered on a global scale. So it's all about cost efficiency, obviously, and it's a technology to create high-tech potential business to, let's say, for applications that create deliveries directly to the consumer. So we know where we are today. As I said, existing business, SkyCell, future business, growing business, Food Guardians. Where do we want to be? So this is how the current platform or the current map looks like in logistics. In the supply chain, we already see that we've got about 200 documents. There's a number of partners involved in the supply chain. That is not very efficient. The way we want to, and that is the disruptive nature of the vision that we have and the technology that we have. Currently in the supply chain, each and every partner in the supply chain represents an activity. And we think we can change that. It has to be changed. The technology and the information that is needed to ship from the manufacturer to the final consumer should not be centralized, because how can you, if you know that the activities in the supply chain are highly decentralized, there is 20 or 30 or 40 partners doing something in that supply chain, it's highly decentralized. How can you, if you want to manage that, currently the supply chains are all centralized, so they're managed in a centralized manner. We believe that if it's a decentralized supply chain, you can also, the best solution has to be a decentralized management of that supply chain, which means that it's not the centralized system that controls the supply chain, but it's actually the container that carries the information. Now, how does it look like? So it's built, therefore, and then we have of course the natural bridge to blockchain. What does it mean? We will mirror. That is the vision we have, that we will mirror the actual data, so the shipping parcel, so to say. We mirror that and manage it. So in the blockchain, there will be two types of information. I mean, this is an obvious element of it. It's the public blockchain information available on the blockchain, which means that this is the normal thing that you need to know when you're moving goods, like what's the dangerous goods codes, or what's the HS code, or that sort of stuff. And then there's the permissive, or let's say closed blockchain, that's only allowed to be seen by those who have the right token for it. So that is this is the way we think, we believe that we can disrupt this the supply chain for both pharmaceuticals and food products. Now, in order to do that, I talked about the two applications. What we do need on top of that is an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem that provides the possibility to use the blockchain to gather that information and to use that and get that information accessible. That does not exist as we speak today. So we want to develop that. It's going to be an open source ecosystem with majority functionality for free to all logistics players, and because that is critical for the survival or the success of this application, or this Logicoin or Logichain. That is it has to be damn cheap. It has to be damn cheap, because that's the only way to disrupt the way the logistics industry is organized. There will be add-on services like payments, insurance, etc., provided through the partners. And of course, the partners, so the logistics industry, like the freight forwarders and the carriers, all have to buy into this application. And it creates a seamless, fully autonomous smart container solution. So it's not only mail-free or data-free, but it is paper-free, and all the data is connected to the container rather than a centralized system. So so this is basically, it's a decentralized approach and vision of the supply chain. It will reduce an enormous amount of shipments. If you look at the way currently products are shipped, I mean, this is a long-term vision. Currently, there are so many partners involved in the supply chain, from the manufacturer to the consumer. There's a huge amount of inefficiency in there. We believe we can disrupt that and change that, but we need the ecosystem to provide that platform to make that information available. It will lower the ultimate cost, because the lesser or the fewer partners that touch the products, the cheaper the transportation and the supply chain will be. At the same time, it will free up manpower. But smart containers, we're submitting 2 coins to raise about 40 million for this. It is to fuel the so it's a smart coin and the Logicoin. It's to fuel on the smart coin. It's to fuel the growth of SkyCell, and to start the growth of Food Guardians and secondaries, and which is it's a profit sharing coin. So it is. I mean, it's an existing business. It's mature. This is not just about a white paper. It's existing business. And the Logicoin, which is a currency we need to fuel the Logichain. This is the management team we currently have. As I said, I'm here today to represent Richard. He couldn't be here for personal reasons. Nico and Ross. So Nico and Richard, and the rest of the management team, all based in Zurich. Then on the board, already talked about. We talked about let's say the current traditional supply chain companies and logistics companies. One of the best proven messages that we get from the industry on that centralization actually is not the solution is the news that got out just a couple of months ago that, for instance, DHL spent or lost actually $2 billion, just $2 billion on an SAP or a failed SAP implementation, which proves that centralization is not the solution. And the only reason for them to do it was to make their company more efficient, and they failed on it. So it almost, well, there were even messages going out, the news going out that DHL was for sale. I mean, that can happen, and so it's not the right way to go there. Oliver Busman was one of the. I mean, he was once involved in SAP, so he knew exactly why it failed. At that time, he was not with SAP, but he knew exactly why it failed and what is needed for this industry. So why do we think it's a good investment? First of all, it's an up and running company. It's not a white paper only, which is different with many other ICOs. The attractive, I mean, we have so far, most of the funding has been come from Swiss investors, and I think because of the nature of the new application like Food Guardians is much more into the consumer field, it is the time to reach out to the, let's say, the rest of the world outside of Switzerland, where the first investments were traditional funding. So it's about investing in a highly profitable logistics ecosystem, which is the Logi chain. There's one more thing, and I think that is the right thing to show something. We were talking about developments and talking about, let's say, what the next thing about disrupting natures. As we go to if you need medicine, this is just one idea. If you need medicine, where do you go to? You go to the pharmacy. But we believe that by changing that supply chain in combination with the blockchain, we have developed a technology where we actually do exactly what I just depicted here, saying that we combine the information in the supply chain in the packaging material. And this is what we call the one. It's a direct-to-patient solution, which means that, and this is disruptive in the industry. The normal supply chain is from manufacturer to importer to wholesaler to pharmacy, etc., pre-wholesaler, etc. This is a device that actually brings the product straight from the manufacturer anywhere in the world, have it preconditioned, cooled at 2 to 8 degrees or 15, 25 degrees, and it gets delivered in 7 to 10 days without any temperature excursion. Combining, so this is just the hardware, but combining with the blockchain technology to provide the, where did I leave the ticker? Somewhere. To provide the, sure I had it somewhere. Is it? Ah, here it is. Black on black. Good. So that is the, there's a potential estimated market for this device that's calculated at about 5 billion. Good. So join us in this revolution and have a look at smartcontainers.ch. Have a look and looking forward to any questions. As far as I can answer them as a not techie.
Yeah. You got a question?
Yeah, it's proper. But you cannot buy it yet, right? But you can touch and feel it. Go ahead. So what it is, it's the same technology that we use in all the containers. So what it does, it's an insulation package on the outside, which is the same 100 patents we have on the containers is also on this packaging, and it has a PCM, a phase changing material on the inside, which guarantees the 7 to 10 days temperature safety.
So I've got a question on the food side of things. So one of the things that most consumers want to know, apart from making sure that their food is fresh and stays alive in the fridge for more than a few hours, but what about food provenance? The packaging of food these days is people want to know where it comes from.
Right. So
provenance is a key thing.
Right.
So how does your blockchain work in the food provenance, making sure it is what they say it is?
It's a good question. I mean, the blockchain provides the information. It contains the information in the product itself, so it protects the integrity of the data. When you talk from a product or a material point of view, everything we build is sustainable. So that is maybe one side of the answer. Where the products are coming from is part of the data protection that is built into the blockchain. So maybe that answers it.
Well, not really. The reason is so if you're moving coffee, for example, from South America,
right?
Okay, and I've got coffee beans, and I'm an ethical farmer,
right?
And I'm producing, fair trade. I'm looking after my staff. There is an opportunity to swap those coffee beans with something else which isn't ethical.
You could.
How does your solution get around that?
There's two sides of the solution, right? It's people who provide the documents. It's people who provide the data that is available on the blockchain. From a product, the hardware point of view, I mean, that is obvious. That is obvious. Once it's shipped, it's sealed. You cannot open it. From a data integrity point of view, it's still there still will be a quality checking and certification for the products that have been shipped. That certification will be embedded in the packaging material.
So you're using what, RFID tagging and things like that to identify the movement?
Yeah, sensors.
Okay.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, brilliant.
Thank
Okay.
you.